Euro-Belarusian relations refers to relations between the Republic of Belarus and the European Union. Mutual relations were initially established after the European Economic Community recognized Belarusian independence in 1991. After Alexander Lukashenko became Belarusian leader in 1994, the relationship between Minsk and the EU deteriorated and has remained cold and distanced, as the EU has condemned the government of Belarus several times for authoritarian and anti-democratic practices, and even imposed sanctions on the country. Following a slight improvement in relations in 2008, the 2010 Belarusian presidential election led to mass demonstrations and arrests in Minsk. The EU declared that the imprisonment of opposition figures and protesters contravened human rights laws, and imposed new targeted sanctions on major Belarusian officials and business people. Belarus is participating in the EU's Eastern Partnership. In October 2015, EU announced it would suspend most of its sanctions against Belarus. Belarus borders 3 EU member states: Poland, Lithuania and Latvia. European Economic Commission recognized Belarusian independence in 1991, and Belarus is part of several bilateral and multilateral treaties with the European Union. In 1995, Belarus and the European Union signed a partnership and cooperation agreement, but this agreement was not ratified by the EU. Belarus is being a member of trade relations agreements based on the EU generalized system of preferences and the most favored nation. Belarus is also a part of the EU's Eastern Partnership. Belarus-EU relationships began to worsen after the election of Alexander Lukashenko in 1994, with Belarus excluded from the EU's European neighborhood policy as the EU's reaction towards the establishment of authoritarian regime under President Lukashenko. The further deterioration of Belarus-EU relationships continued in the 21st century, with the European Union imposing sanctions against Belarusian officials, businessmen and several government-owned companies. The sanctions were the results of political repressions following the mass protests during the 2010 presidential elections, when several members of political opposition and protesters were imprisoned and condemned to prison terms. There are notes of Belarus-EU relations improvement. Belarus has not supported Russia in its aggression towards Ukraine and released several political prisoners. In 2015, the EU suspended most of the sanctions against Belarusian officials. In 2016, the traveling ban imposed on Lukashenko in 2000 was lifted. This decision was praised by Belarusian officials. Yet, as noted by both EU officials and international organizations, the further improvement is being decelerated due to ongoing human rights violation and political opposition suppression that are still present in Belarus. In 2019, Lukashenko made his first official visit to the European Union since sanctions ended. EU's Eastern Partnership program and further economic initiatives were discussed in Lukashenko's meeting with Austria's Sebastian Kurz. In 2016, 2 opposition candidates were elected to the country's parliament. This was marked as a step to democratization by several EU officials. The visa system is functioning between the EU and Belarus, with Belarusian requiring Schengen visas to enter the European Union. Belarus introduced a visa-free entry for citizens of 70 countries including the EU in 2017. In 2019, it was announced that the EU would simplify requirements for obtaining Schengen visas for Belarusians, reducing its costs and time needed for application approval. Belarus-EU relations are complicated by Belarusian strong ties with Russia, who emerged as active EU critic and opponent after the annexation of Crimea in 2014. Belarus is a part of Belarus-Russia Union State, as well as European Asian Union, a customs union which includes both countries and several other CIS members also. As for today, the Belarus-Russia integration is mostly economical, with free trade and free movement zones established between the two countries. But Russia is being seen as demanding deeper political and administrative integration. In 2021, Ryanair flight FR4978 from Greece to Lithuania was forced to land by the Belarusian Air Force. The flight was under 10 kilometers from its destination but still in Belarusian airspace. A passenger, journalist Roman Protasevich, who had published negative comments about the Belarusian government, was taken by authorities and the plane was allowed to depart 7 hours later. EU members unanimously condemned the action and are presently discussing possible responses. Although the European Union and Belarus signed a partnership and cooperation agreement provisions of the 1989 agreement between the EU and the Soviet Union, Belarus is amongst the few states in Europe that have not asked for membership in the European Union. Similarly, the European Union has not offered membership to Minsk. Belarus ha